Wow, stories.
Am I an idiot for making my pregnant wife cry by calling her less of a person? This all boils down to my wife's father. I have a 6-year-old son that started living with me as his primary guardian when he was 3, and his mom went back to school. I met my wife through work, and I also met her father, who worked at the same company in a higher role than both of us. My wife knew I had a son, but I said I wouldn't introduce them unless we became a serious couple, because that wouldn't be fair to him. When my wife did meet my son, they got along really well. I invited her and her father over for dinner one night, and her father met my son for the first time. He was weird and awkward around my son and made strange comments about his appearance. His mom is black. I confronted him after the dinner, and he made some pretty pathetic excuses. After that, I asked him to not contact me outside of work matters and asked her for space. A couple weeks later, my wife told me she had completely cut her father off for his beliefs. Our relationship became stronger than ever. When we got engaged, she said she didn't want her father at the wedding. We ended up both transferring to other companies. As far as I knew, he was gone from both of our lives for good. My wife is pregnant and due in a month. She has already started maternity leave and has been looking for a new job to start after maternity leave because she doesn't want to stay at her current company. Yesterday, she sat me down and told me her dad got her an interview for a job at our old company. She also told me she has been talking to him for a couple months and wants to know how I would feel about him knowing our future child. I told her the truth. I told her I felt betrayed, and I felt like she betrayed my son, who she claimed to think of as her son as well. I told her that she would even ask me, which makes her less of a person in my eyes. She started crying and asked me what kind of insensitive jerk would call the woman pregnant with his kid less of a person. I told her that was how I felt, and although the language was harsh, I felt it matched what she was asking for. After cooling off, I'm now unsure if my word choice was warranted and wondering if I was an idiot for speaking to her that way while she is pregnant and more emotionally vulnerable. I could have just said I wasn't okay with what she was proposing without insulting her character. Everyone sucks here. I get you. I'd be mad too. I mean, what would happen down the line when her father is in the presence of both kids, but treats your son differently? I feel like your feelings of betrayal are valid at this moment, but I do think that it was an idiot move to call her less of a person. It's her father, and I want to have him back in her life. You both could have had a more constructive conversation about this, regarding expectations moving forward and her dad's behavior towards both kids. Everyone sucks here. I honestly don't know if I can give a judgment, but the people here saying OP is just as bad as his father-in-law for what he said is bats hit insane to me. Harsh? Sure. But a grown man being openly racist toward a child is not even close to what OP said. I can't fault OP for his disappointment in his wife. Was he too harsh, or did his wife need the wake-up call? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for telling my fiancé to shut the hell up and stop talking about archaeology at a funeral? Me, male 28, and my soon-to-be wife Phoebe, female 27, have been dating for 4 years. We've a quite amazing relationship, to be honest. We were at a mutual friend's funeral, George, 27M. The three of us met at college, and we basically became buddies from the get-go. None of us are archaeologists, by the way. Our BA was business administration. A couple of weeks ago, we were at George's funeral service, most of the time just us with his family. We were the only outsiders there. Phoebe, completely out of the blue, started to talk about archaeology to George's mother. TLDR. She started talking about some obscure South American indigenous mummies. In detail, she talked about an ancient native boy who was found buried with a purposefully punctured, broken Antara flute next to his mouth that they called a killed instrument, as it was meant to never be played by anyone else, in the same way it was played once by its owner. The flute was made of stone called combarbalita, which means it was meant to last through generations, so it had to be broken on purpose. She talked about a connection between the flute and its owner being buried together, and the idea that the instrument was willfully broken in order to bring the instrument closer to his owner in eternity, achieving immortality for both of them by that irreversible action of breaking an instrument that was meant to last forever. I'm basically paraphrasing, but that was the idea. I can use some of her fancy words because she literally airdropped the article she was talking about right there at the service. I'm wasting characters on this just so you know how obscure the conversation was. I get the idea. I get the intention. It is interesting for a college class. In the context of a funeral for our dear friend, however, I thought it was out of pocket and sort of distasteful, disrespectful to talk about that. George's mother was polite and she asked some questions, but she was mostly quiet, just listening to Phoebe talking non-stop. Then George's father and brother approached us and she was about to start to tell them the whole damn story once again. I quietly said, "Please don't." She was about to start rambling, so I told her, "Just shut the feck up, please." She didn't speak to me for that entire evening. We talked about it later, back in our place, and I explained why I reacted that way. She said, "Gotcha, you're fine," but she has acted differently to me since that day. One of my friends told me that I broke her, and it does feel that way. It's almost like she's a robot and her software it's malfunctioning. Tension is high for both of us, and George's death hit us hard on both of us, so I DK if I'm missing something. Not an idiot. I do not get any of the YTA votes here. Yes, I agree that maybe you could have said it nicer, but she should not have been rambling about this fact to the deceased families, especially the parents. It was very inappropriate. She should have given her condolences and moved on. It was very inappropriate. I understand you both are grieving, but this was not the place. No idiots here. But this is a terribly stressful situation. She was info dumping on a grieving mother, and you felt, not unreasonably, you needed to stop her. Her feelings are hurt because you made clear her weird reaction was inappropriate. But her behavior was probably a stress reaction that she couldn't help, and now she's mortified. All I can say is treat her kindly, and I hope you can both start to heal. I'm really sorry for your loss. Was he wrong to intervene? Let me know in the comments.